Jim Meskimen is an actor, impressionist, voice artist, and improvisational comedian, best known for his work on Whose Line Is It Anyway? And Impress Me. Jim has appeared in films such as Frost Nixon, Apollo 13, and The Paper, and now he's adding series such as Amazon's Hunters with Al Pacino, the Starz Network's Gaslight, opposite Sean Penn and Julia Roberts, and Apple TV's The Big Door Prize, by the creators of Schitt's Creek, and I think I'm allowed to say that word in this context.
It's not, yeah, because you pronounce that, you put the C in there.
Yeah,
that's the important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
I could hear it.
How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for that very kind introduction that I wrote.
Yes. Well, you've got these 3 shows coming up.
Yeah.
How come you get to do 3 shows at once?
Well, because through the illusion of television, we actually shot Gaslit the year before last, and Hunters last year, and I just wrapped work on the Big Door Prize. So, they're spaced out in terms of actual production. Also, it doesn't take that long to shoot parts in television shows. You may work a few weeks, but there are 52 weeks in a year, so you've got a lot of room to move into.
Yeah, and the year before last, was that shot in the middle of COVID, or maybe did you get there before?
Yeah, it was, not during the hottest time, but it was, COVID was going on, and people were masked up, and, it's kind of funny, in Hollywood, we've been adjusting to all the procedures and protocols, and, everyone's masked up, and, you've got a shield, and the makeup people have shields, but there are moments when you go, well, we need to take the masks off now.
Yeah.
So I guess the virus realizes that when they hear the word action, it has a neutralizing effect.
Yeah, I think that's scientifically proven as well.
Very scientific. It's very scientific. And science is real, so don't you forget.
Absolutely. Now, your role in the Big Door Prize will be coming up on Apple TV. What are you able to tell us about your role?
Not too much specifically. They've restricted me. However, I will say that there is a character that Chris O'Dowd is playing. Ooh. He is the lead, and I think he's more or less a countryman of yours. I mean, he's Irish, so he's from Roscommon, right across the pond there. But as you can hear, I've been working on my Irish accent as well, so you can extrapolate from that. But it's a great show about, I think it'll be very entertaining, about a small southern town in America, and the grocery store, suddenly this machine appears in the store, and it's kind of like one of these Zoltar fortune-telling machines, but it's very high-tech. And so people plug in some very intimate information about themselves, and the card that spits out, it's like a little credit card, and it tells them what their true destiny is. Ooh. Based on science, which is very real. And so that creates chaos because people start changing their lives and their jobs. And anyway, it's going to be a pretty cool show and very funny because the makers of Schitt's Creek did a fantastic job with that series. And I can tell you that our scripts are very funny too. Yeah.
Have your roles in that already been filmed?
I just finished last week.
Wow.
So yeah, I've been working this spring. I've been going back and forth from Atlanta, which is in Georgia, which is part of the United States, very, very sophisticated part.
Yes.
And it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah. And there seems to be a lot of new things coming out on Apple TV at the moment, and I'm trying to figure it out. Do you need an Apple device to be able to watch it, or is it just like Netflix?
No, I think you just need a contract with Apple. I think you just need to pay the dosh, and then you're in like Flynn. And I worked on another Apple series, which nobody will restrict me from talking about, For All Mankind, which is a space show. And I do a lot of voice stuff because I do impressions, as you mentioned. Yeah. And I do a lot of American presidents like John F. Kennedy. I've had the opportunity to do Kennedy many times. Yeah. And Richard Nixon. You're too young to remember Richard Nixon, but there are plenty of tapes. And I've done anyway. So For All Mankind, every now and then it's a retelling of the race to space. I believe as if the Russians got there first, and so they've called me in several times to do different presidents of the day, which I'm always very happy to do.
Yeah, it must be quite hard to perfect an impression, though, right?
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's for me, it's just something I've always been interested in since I was a little boy. I'd hear people from your country. and even as a little boy. I had a nanny who must have been from Yorkshire, and she spoke like this, like Mrs. Doubtfire. And both my mother and I would try to imitate her because it was pleasant, so different. So I've always had a kind of a eagerness to indulge my ear and my ability to copy voices. And then, as I got older and I had a little more dynamics in my voice, I was like, oh, I can sound like, Nixon, or I can sound like Johnny Carson, late great Johnny Carson.
And later on, Robin Williams, I could sound like Robin Williams. And I figure out where I can put my voice and, how fast I have to talk to sound like Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And it's turned out to be a way for me to, support my family, actually. To be a part of my professional acting career is just doing other people's voices.
Yeah. Have you ever maybe come across a celebrity where you thought that there's no way you'd be able to nail their voice, or do you do it eventually?
No, I mean, many times I can't. Everybody's so different, and all celebrities are people, and we all have different physical structures. We have different backgrounds, and there's a lot that goes into the sound of a voice. So, I give it my best shot. And sometimes what happens is, Toby, that I get a request and they say, can you do this voice? I'm like, oh, I know that actor. Gee, I don't know. Let me give it a try. Boom, and I can hit it right away. And that's fun. I'm familiar enough with my own vocal equipment that I can just sort of,
spring into it from time to time without a lot of preamble. Just sort of drop down, and there you go.
Yeah. For a lot of impressionists, I think Trump, I don't know if you could do him, but he was a bit of a gift, wasn't he?
He was absolutely, Toby. He was a terrific gift. I mean, the best. Fantastic.
We almost now have heard people imitate Trump more than we've heard Trump, certainly in recent months. So, for me, I didn't concentrate too much on Trump. I did do a few videos as Trump for my YouTube channel, but it was just because I'd been listening to some interview with him or something like that, and it was sort of stuck in my head. I thought, I got to do something with this. Yeah. But there's so many people out there kind of beating the drum and beating the president that I decided to just kind of lay back and try to do some other ones that are a little more particular to my skill set.
Yeah, I suppose now that he's not the president anymore.
Wait a minute, he's not?
No.
Hey, honey, Trump's not the president anymore? Really? Yeah. Oh. How about that?
Well, even if people didn't like him, they still think it's a bit of a shame that you can't hear that impression. Well, you can still hear it, but it's not as relevant anymore, I guess.
Yeah, no, we've said goodbye to him for a while. We'll see. Maybe he'll come back. Who knows? You never know.
Yeah. Where do you actually start when you're coming up with an impression?
Well, what happens to me, I do it very naturally, and I'm not probably the most disciplined impressionist in a way, but I notice who I'm fond of, basically, who the movies that I see, and I watch a movie and I'm like, oh my God, I'm crazy about this performance of this actor. And, when you go to see a movie, you sort of become that character. You watch them and you have to, if it's a good movie and a good performer, then you feel like you're having their experience. And so you're almost like kind of wearing their persona. So in my case, I just sort of hold on to it a little longer. So, and I look at ones that like, who do I really love? Like when I was, as a young man, I really loved the films of Woody Allen. So, for me, it's very easy to kind of extrapolate what he would say about this or that. He'd say, wow, I notice you have the Sesame Street characters in your wall. It's nice. I understand they're going to start putting them on the British money soon in place of the Queen. Who else, whatever he would say. Jack Nicholson as well, back in the day when he was still a young, hot actor. I really I got into feeling like him and sort of expressing myself like him and being angry. So that's where I start. I start with the ones that I admire, the ones I feel affinity for, and then I just kind of work on it. And if I'm really trying to match something very particularly and very exactly and precisely, I will record myself and then listen to the recording of the subject and go back and forth, because you can learn a lot from that. You go, okay, I see I'm a little too high, or that's a little different part of the face, or oh wow, what is that quality, And sometimes it's a quality that a person will have, the way they hold their mouth. They maybe jut their chin out a little bit, and you can actually look at their face and go, what's going on? And some actors never try to keep their teeth kind of far apart. Like Bryan Cranston has to me, I don't know if this is true or not, I've never really looked that closely at his mouth, but he seems to have his teeth kind of far apart. And that's one aspect of the thing that gives it his sound.
If you have to do stuff like that to do an impression of someone, do you ever wonder if they have to do that in their life all the time?
Well, I think that's just built into that's their default, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is my default voice. I don't have to concentrate on it. This is how it kind of rolls out without me paying any attention at all. Somebody could do an impression of me and they might have to change a lot the way that they hold their face or the way that they express themselves to produce that sound. It's a funny game. It's amusing, and it's been a great way for me to get into animation and lots of odd little moments in TV shows and movies, and that you wouldn't even know that an actor was involved sometimes. Like, I did a short sentence or two in The Joker. At the very beginning of The Joker, there's a kind of a collage, an oral collage of different New York voices on the news and people talking. It's probably in the first 15 seconds of the movie.
All right, it talked like some sort of New Yorker saying something like, hey, the traffic is getting so horrible around here.
I don't remember the exact line, but it was something like that. And, that winds up being a job. So I'm always, it's fun. It's a fun game. It's a little bit like target shooting or something. You're like, I know there's a lot of actors reading for this part. A lot of people in LA and a lot of voice actors that I know, friends of mine, we're all kind of going, who's going to be the best at this one? I think this is one for me. Other times I go, no, that's my friend. Fred will do really well at this. Fred Tatasciore or Piotr Michael but I try it anyway. And it's fun.
Yeah. And you've made quite a career out of it, but when you're at school and you perhaps go to the careers advisor and say, I want to be an impressionist, they'd laugh at you, right?
They'd laugh at you. They would say, yeah, that's nice. Now, why don't you get that's fine, but you should probably get a safe job working for the postal office or for Amazon. Or, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, the funny myth about artists, and hopefully this will interest your listeners, the funny thing about artists is that people look at it and they say, oh, well, can you make a living at it? And some of the best paid people you've ever heard of have been artists.
Yeah.
The fact is, it takes a little bit of courage to pursue that career because there's uncertainty. And the uncertainty comes about because the world is waiting for you to create your job. So if you're not a very energetic person or not very driven, you might fall on your face. But if you're a person who likes to create and is energetic and industrious, the sky's the limit. You can create anything. I mean, if you think about, I always consider J.K. Rowling to be a perfect example of this. This is a person who apparently could have just sat in the laundromat and done her nails, but instead she wrote Harry Potter. And how many billions of dollars of revenue for her and for other entities has that created?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a myth, that artists are like, and we have this picture of the struggling artists, the poor artists, and okay, there are such people, but then there are a lot of wealthy and very happy people in the arts, writing songs, writing screenplays, creating voiceovers, and even, I dare say, impressionists.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, you're also starring in Gaslight, as we mentioned, playing Senator Gurney. It sounds like quite an interesting concept because it's in the Watergate era, right?
That's right. It's about really Martha Mitchell, and Julia Roberts plays Martha Mitchell. She was a very, very visible personality during that time. I remember, because I was a kid at the time, but I remember Martha Mitchell she made public appearances. She was on Laugh-In, comedy shows and talk shows, chat shows, and very vocal and kind of a loose cannon. Yeah. And so this, in other words, she didn't find anything taboo to talk about. And there were all her friends were in high levels of government. And her husband was the Attorney General of the United States, which is a very high post, and worked with Richard Nixon very directly. Yeah. So Sean Penn plays John Mitchell, her husband, under just the most incredible makeup. You would not recognize him. And indeed, when I worked with Sean, I did not recognize him.
Wow.
This bald, fat man stood up and said, "Hi, I'm Sean." And I said, "You are?" If you say so. The makeup was done by Kazuhiro, who's a great makeup artist and a designer who did Gary Oldman's Winston Churchill. Designed that makeup and won an Oscar for that. And I worked with him on The Grinch back when he was first starting out in this country. Wow. And he designed, had a lot to do with applying and designing Jim Carrey's makeup with Rick Baker. So this Gaslit show, I play a senator. I get to grill Julia Roberts in the Watergate, in the Senate chamber, and I get to play golf a little bit with Sean Penn, and it's a great experience working with both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like such a fun show to work on. When was that recorded?
We shot that last spring, maybe. Yeah, maybe it was earlier than that. Oh man, I don't know. Time gets away from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, this other thing you're working on as well is Amazon's Hunters, which sounds interesting.
Yeah, and that looks like I hear that's going to come out in August. It's a rumor, but that's what I heard. I hope it does. I think that would be great. Yeah. And that's a Nazi hunting show. It's and it's a series, and Al Pacino, as you mentioned, is in it. I didn't get to work with Al, but I look forward to working with him someday. He's a great artist. But I can't tell you too much about that. That's a really top secret one. But I will say that I enjoyed very much my character, and he sounds a bit like this. So you can guess that it was an interesting assignment. Always good for American actors to try to play people from Europe, because often it's the other way around. Many times I see a lot of actors, on TV shows in the United States. Maybe they're playing a cowboy, or maybe they're playing some settlers, or I don't know, miners or something. And you go, wow, it's a good actor. I wonder who that is. And I'll look it up, and it says, after a few years at the RSC, he then went on to wow, he's a Brit. There's so many Brits playing Americans.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, are we falling so short? And
we're invading.
The truth is, your countrymen are terrific actors.
Yes.
Hats off. A lot of respect. Yeah. But give us a few back. Just a few. Yeah.
Yeah. You say it's a Nazi hunting show. Is that hunting Nazis or Nazis who hunt?
Oh, no, hunting Nazis, yes. Yeah. Perhaps hunting Nazis who hunt. So it might go all the way around, actually.
Yeah.
Could be. That's the circle of life, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And as well, you are famous for being Colonel Sanders in these radio commercials for KFC.
Yeah, I don't think you get them out there in your country, but in America, Colonel Harlan Sanders was a real person. And when I was a boy listening on the radio and the TV, he was still doing his own spots, you see. So I tried, that sound has been in my head since I was a little boy. So when they was looking for a replacement, I raised my hand and I said, I think I got this one.
And it's been a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like such fun. And how long's that been going?
About 6 years, actually.
Wow.
And I hope it'll continue, because I'm not going to age out of it. It's only going to get better.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
You're always looking for something that's got a long run. And I was like, I'd have to get, maybe when I'm in my 90s, I'll have to go, you know what, a younger man, someone in his 70s should take over.
Yeah, that's true.
And what part of Scotland are you broadcasting from right now?
A town here called Falkirk, which is about halfway between Glasgow and Edinburgh.
Okay, right in the Midlands there. Oh, nice. Yes. I've been to Edinburgh. I liked it very much. Ooh. We were there for the Fringe Festival one time and liked it enormously.
Yes. The festival hasn't really been... I think it happened last year, but...
Did it?
It wasn't really... Like, I didn't go, and I think it was kind of like, meh. So hopefully this year it'll be back to...
Kind of meh? The whole thing was meh?
Yeah.
How is that possible? You got 1,200 acts. Yeah. One of them had to be, wow!
Maybe.
When I was there, I saw 3 or 4 shows that were just fantastic. A dance show, a comedy show, a play. And we just, my wife and I, we tried very hard to pick shows to see. They give you a massive magazine that is like a phone book. And tried to go, okay, well, now that's the show. I guess that sounds good. Let's see if we can find it. It's like D17, all right, on the map. And you're looking at it's next to... Anyway, crowds of people. We never got into anything we tried to get in.
Yeah.
But we'd give up after a while and go, all right, hell, it's 7:30. Let's just go in there. And we'd go in to see a show and it'd be like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So it was wonderful.
I suppose one of the good things about Edinburgh is that even if somewhere looks far away on the map, you can kind of walk it.
Yeah, definitely. We got in a lot of walking. It was great. It's a beautiful city. I'd go back anytime. And I'd love to go to Glasgow too. So if there's anyone out there that would like to hire an American impressionist to do a Scottish tour, I'm your boy.
That sounds fun. Well, have you got any other projects coming up that you're allowed to tell us about that you're maybe going to start working on soon?
Yeah, actually, I just got a job. I'm going to work on a film about about the first black NBA player, the first black player to get into the American basketball leagues. And it's a really nice script. And a friend of mine wrote it and is directing it. And he asked me to play a little role in it. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be called Sweetwater. That's the name of the original basketball player who was a player for the Harlem Globetrotters and made it into the NBA. So that's an exciting project. Also, I've got a podcast that I play a lot of different characters in, a limited series podcast called Space 1969 that is super funny. And I think it's going to start coming out in June, but they haven't promised that exactly. And I don't know. It's a big one, but I did that quite a while ago. So hopefully it's going to launch soon. Space 1960. A lot of little things going on. A lot of little things all the time. I have to stay very busy because I never work on any one thing for very long. So, it's like a constant flow. So we're always promoting. And then I'm always putting stuff up on my YouTube channel. And if you guys want to see any fun experimental stuff with impressions that I've done or that I like to do, I put up a new video at least once a day, sometimes twice a day with different experimental things. Jimpressions is the name of that channel and the name of my one-man show when I have that up, Jimpressions. And then I'm on TikTok too. So trying to feed the beast, the social media beast.
Absolutely. I like the thing where you spin the wheel and do the impression.
That's my daily fortune cookie, celebrity fortune cookie. I read a fortune in a different celebrity voice.
Yes.
I'm glad you like it.
Well, many thanks for joining us here on the show today. It's been great having you on.
Thank you. Great talking to you, Toby.